Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome everyone to our webinar today. We see a bunch of people joining in. We're going to give it a couple more seconds, see if we can get a few more attendees to join. All right, let's go ahead and begin our webinar today. So here you are at Marketing Your Farm to School program in the cafeteria. My name is Angie Corwin. I'm a Farm to Cafeteria program manager at the Community Alliance with Family Farmers. And I'm really excited that we had so many people sign up for our webinar today to talk about different strategies for marketing your farm to school program. And I'm also really excited to present to you our signage suite that we've developed for this particular purpose. So right now, everyone on the call is muted for sound clarity purposes. We do have a chat box and a question box on this platform. So I do encourage you to use both. The chat box is for questions and comments that everyone on the call will be able to see. And the question box, you have an opportunity to direct a question specifically to the organizers or to the whole group. So feel free to use either one of those boxes. And we are going to take questions on this call since we will be talking a bit about logistics and want to make sure everybody's clear on those. So feel free to add in your questions into either the question or chat box throughout the call. And if it's a question we can answer right away, we will. Otherwise, we will take time at the end of the call to address your questions. And of course, if there's anything that is not addressed on the call, we are available to answer questions after the call. And we can either do that via email or the phone. And if you're having any technical issues with GoToWebinar, we recommend that you exit the webinar and then rejoin. That often works. But if it doesn't work, then use the question box and direct your questions to my coworker, Yusuf, who's on the call today and who is helping out with the technical part of this webinar. So he'll definitely be available to troubleshoot with you. So let's go ahead and begin. Today's presentation is going to cover our mission. We're going to set the stage also for why are we even on this call? Why are we even talking about farm to school and marketing? I'm going to introduce you to CAF's Good Food Marketplace. And then we're going to dive into our signage suite that we have available to all of you. And I have a couple examples that I'd like to share with you throughout the presentation today. And then, like I said before, we're definitely going to have questions, time for questions at the end. So CAF's mission, CAF is a membership-based organization of family farmers, farm supporters, and the community working to build sustainable food and farming systems across the state. Our overall goal is to strengthen family farms by helping farmers increase their economic and environmental sustainability, supporting community members and businesses in reducing their ecological footprints and improving community health. So in short, CAF advocates for sustainable agriculture and family farms across California. Throughout the 40 years that CAF has been around, we've always tried to position ourselves where the need is the greatest. We change our programming and focus periodically with one main question in mind. What do our farmers need to be viable businesses? And right now, exciting times, they need us. All of you working in the food system and education, and each one of us because we all eat food. Over the last few years, developing out our farm to cafeteria programming, we've discovered that we're actually doing a pretty darn good job. What we're doing is working. If I sound surprised, it's because we always put out our best foot forward and hope that our efforts are going to pay off. And when they actually do, we get a little extra excited. I'm sure all of you on the call today can identify with that little piece there. So I'm happy to report that due to some excellent impact tracking, CAF was able to facilitate over $800,000 of California product purchase throughout all of the different programming that we offer. This statistic comes from 2017, so we were able to track all of the dollars spent for California family farms throughout the entire year. And a lot of the different programming that we do at CAF is what I have listed here on the slide. We have bid support, technical assistance. We connect farms and buyers directly to each other. We have food safety technical assistance that we offer on both sides, the buyer and the seller part. We have Harvest of the Month programs, and we work with the Unprocessed Fruits and Vegetables Pilot Project. And we are very proud of this number because we now have a benchmark to go off of, and we continue to build out our programming based on what is working and what's not working. So we came to the conclusion that we needed somewhere to hold all of our farm to cafeteria pieces to make it accessible to anyone interested in exploring institutional food sales more. So CAF is currently in the process of creating a new online platform to help connect California food producers with buyers across the state. We're calling it the Good Food Marketplace. Within this framework, we have focus areas that we are able to direct our work, to help us direct our work and make the most impact we can. I've already mentioned most of the focus areas, and today we will address an additional one, the signage and marketing piece. Also, on all of these slides down at the bottom right corner, you can find the website for the Good Food Marketplace. And over the next year, we're going to be working to build out the website, and it's almost going to act as a toolkit. So if you're a buyer or a seller, you can visit the website and be able to find out information about your own farm to cafeteria program. So stay tuned. We'll definitely be keeping you up to date on that. So setting the stage for why Farm to School Cafeteria. To some degree, this is going to be speaking to the choir because all of you are on the call are likely very interested and active in it already, but just to make sure we're all on the same page, we are lucky that there's a national and statewide farm to school movement. So we don't have to do this alone, but as we look into it more, we begin to understand why the movement even exists in the first place. CBS News covered a story recently on the current agriculture scene and uncovered some startling facts. Since 2013, farm income has been dropping steadily. This year, the average farm's income is projected to be 35% below the 2013 level. Think about trying to live today on the income you had 15 years ago. That's a quote by an agricultural expert, Chris Hurt, and it's pretty startling. We depend on farms to grow nourishing food for us, and yet the farms sit at the bottom of the food chain, generating pennies on the dollar as our food system grows more global and complex. Compounding these startling facts, diet-related diseases are on the rise in our country. They've become the leading cause of death and disproportionately impact low-income and minority communities. But don't get too discouraged by these startling facts. In California, 56% of adolescents eat in the school cafeteria at least once a week. By serving fresh fruits and vegetables, we have the opportunity to make a big impact on our future. Now, we all know that it is not as simple as putting healthy food in front of kids and poof, they love it and they get healthier overnight. Transitioning school food programs to scratch-cooked meals from menus that feature highly processed foods has many challenges. And all of you know just as well as I do what those are. And one of the biggest tasks is getting kids to warm up to the new food offerings. It sounds daunting, but it's happening all across the state every single day. So I'd like to ask Yusuf here to pull up our poll. I'm interested to find out who is on the call today. So if you would just select which option best represents you, and if for whatever reason you don't see that one of these options represents you, feel free to add it into the chat box or the question box, and we'll make sure that you get represented. Cool, I see a few more coming in. Go ahead and make your selection. Yep, there we go. And everybody has participated. Yusuf, could you please close the poll? All right, here we go. We have school food service is over 50% on the call today. We have a few hospitals and other in the chat box. Where do we have here? Yep. All right. So there we go. Most of the school and food service community. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining the call today. And it really helps me to know exactly who's on the call so I can help direct some of the language here. So let's jump back into some statistics. I'd like us to all start thinking of how we can encourage a shift in those eating habits, or even smaller, just getting people to eat more local produce more often. So the first marketing strategy I'd like to mention today is a tasting or a food demonstration. Now, the statistics on this slide refer to grocery store food demonstrations, but the concept of how powerful a tasting can be on decision making applies here. I know a lot of you on the webinar today have done a tasting, either in the classroom or your cafeteria already, so you might be quite aware of how impactful they are. I think the main point I'd like to make here is that if changing the behavior of a person, whether it be a student, patient, or even yourself, is the goal, then tastings of foods we want to serve needs to happen on a regular basis. And the visual signage I'm going to introduce to you today is only going to help enhance what you're already doing. And I have another statistics that's not on the slide. It's a helpful one. It's from the National Association for the Education of Young Child. They say that a child must be offered a new food up to 10 to 15 times before they will eat it. With that information in hand, we have found that tasting, and more tasting is a great method for overcoming their resistance. And to that point, CAF was interested to find out just how impactful it is to do tastings. So in school year 2016, CAF's food course service member conducted taste tests in the cafeteria at Wright Charter School and surveyed the students at each tasting. She was consistent doing these tastings each month of the school year because we wanted to find out for ourselves if putting the extra effort into doing the tastings was actually worth it. And even though we surveyed the students on their preference, you can see that in our chart over on the right, we asked them if they tried it, if they liked it, and if they loved it. So tried it is that I didn't really like it, but at least I tried it. Or if they liked it or they loved it. And we did it with these simple tally sheets. This is just a regular Post-it paper. And we recorded all of their findings each single month. And even though we surveyed the students on their preference, we were more interested in the participation numbers. You can see that as the school year went on, more and more students began to participate in the tasting, with the highest participation month being in April with a Swiss chard frittata. This tells us that the unfamiliarity of tastings at the beginning of the year kept about half of the school from participating. But as the year went on, it wasn't so strange to see a tasting in the cafeteria, and more students decided to have a taste until almost the whole school participated in the last 3 months of the year. So we felt pretty encouraged with ourselves. And once we were able to take on the baseline tasting, then we were able to go the next step. So let's get into some visuals of holding a promotion, and that'll take us into talking about the signage. So to have a greater impact on your audience, you want to make your wave big. The difference between having one sign on your table versus a sign on your table, posters up throughout the year, branding on cafeteria menus, announcements over loudspeakers, newsletters home to parents, and monthly lunchtime events is huge. We want our audiences to know that we are here. Know that we want them to hear our message and we want them to expect it. which is kind of an interesting thing to think about. Making the farm to cafeteria, local food, farmer focus, healthy eating, and fresh produce is our goal. We want that to be the norm. So now, if you just kind of had that thought in your head, like, well, I don't have money and time to do all of those things you just mentioned, don't worry about it. I just encourage you to start where you can and do what you can, even if it's just one small thing. Anything is better than nothing. So the photos I have here on the slide are to show displays that are adequate, but not quite exceptional. These splashes of color are helpful, but they don't really stand out a whole lot. And I'd also like to point out that both of the tasting photographs, they're not displaying the whole produce item in its whole form. And it's been shown that students who see produce whole and in its cut form are more likely to identify it when they're at the grocery store or other locations. So it's sort of that just education. What does it look like before we cut it up? What does it look like cut up? What does it look like in a recipe and on my plate? It's just all information for us. So now let's look at the alternative. Very colorful, very bright, all of these photographs. And to me, what stands out the most is the variety of colors. The photos on the right, they show you how you can use the same signage in multiple locations and even get your lunch staff involved by dressing up or holding fancy produce, just having a big old smile on your face. You can see every person in these photographs has a big old smile on their face. The center photo is a really nice, simple photo. It's a simple display with a few key elements in it. The Taste Test Kitchen sign is a more permanent fixture that shows up at each one of their tastings. The balloons are there for visual attraction, and the produce is displayed whole, and the woman is smiling. So there you go, more smiles. So you can see here that the difference between tailoring your efforts towards your audience can really make a big difference. All of these photographs are obviously meant for a younger audience, as opposed to if you were in a hospital, maybe your audience was a little more adult. So let's see. So I guess what I'd like to say here is that when the items that you're trying to get kids to eat are unfamiliar, that making it fun and attractive is one way to help encourage them to participate. And kind of think about when you watch TV or see advertisements around your community, you'll begin to notice that most of them are for unhealthy foods. And in the grocery store, food companies, they actually pay the stores to display their advertisements and put their products front and center. It's not an accident that checkout aisles are full of candy, chips, and soda with marketing tailored to kids. And we can offset this exposure by incorporating our own marketing materials where we actually have the influence in your school and hospital cafeterias. So now I'd like to bring up another poll. I'd like to find out how you guys, all of you on the call, market your own farm to school cafeteria program. So if you would take a moment and select the one that represents, you can actually select more than one on this poll. We have the signage in the cafeteria, newsletters, cafeteria promotions, press releases, or other engagement, staff engagement, focus ideas. And if you have anything in particular that you do in your school or hospital that isn't represented here, feel free to place that in the chat box and we will mention it. Cool, so let's see. We have a few more coming in. I see the numbers changing there. Good, couple more. All right, that's pretty good. Yusuf, would you mind closing the poll and we'll see what we've. All right. Oh, we've got a lot going on here. So we have a lot of people do signage and newsletters, a lot of cafeteria promotions. Great. A few press releases and some staff engagement focused activities. That's really exciting. Cool. I'm glad to hear that a lot of you are doing all of these things. So, and thank you all for participating in that poll. So now we all have an idea. Yusuf, would you please close that and I will get back to our presentation. Great. Cool. So knowing that a lot of you do your food demonstrations and some of you already use the signage, I'm really excited that I can now share with you our signage offerings because they'll only help enhance what you're already doing in your schools and hospital cafeterias. So let's shift our focus a bit now, and we're going to talk about the materials that CAF has to offer. And what I did was I put up the website here, just one slide with this website. This is your ticket to having access to our cafeteria signage. Once you fill out the agreement form that's on this website, I'll send you a link to a Dropbox folder with all of the signage folders, signage files for you to download and print. And then I'm going to refer to this Dropbox folder as the signage folders in the next few slides. So when I say that, then you know what I'm talking about. And we will have this website up again later too. So jumping right in with our most popular item available, the farmer profiles. They're 8.5 by 11 and are designed to be printed in-house. Of course, they can be printed out-of-house, but the in-house, they're just simpler colors. They offer a print margin for you, so they're designed for you to print off at your will as often as you'd like. So mostly the farmer profiles are used for tastings in the classroom or cafeteria, but can also be used in newsletters. You can put them on the lunch line or display in your office or cafeteria. Maybe there's like a main display in your cafeteria. They're used there a lot too. They are farmer and produce item specific, as you can see in the examples here. Coke Farm grows many different produce items, so each profile will be for a different item, even though the photo of the farmer is the same. We are consistently adding more of these to your signage folders, and there's also an opportunity for you to request a specific sign to be made for your cafeteria promotion or tasting. So if you visit that website that I gave you earlier, after you already have access to the signage folders, then you're able to request a custom sign. A lot of times we ask people, or people use the custom signage request form if we aren't able to make them their profile soon enough. That's what I was going to say on this next one here. The cafeteria signage, we have editable materials. So if you request a sign from us and we're not able to make it in time, like it's like the night before and you realize that we don't have the sign that you want, we have these editable materials that you can actually make your own profile for. So that's pretty exciting. These editable profiles are for you to use for your own school or garden as well. So, and then we also ask that you use these materials for California family farmers. So if you're working with a farm that you're not really sure if they are in California or you know they're not, or maybe you're getting produce from a distributor, but the distributor isn't able to tell you what farm they even came from, then we are going to ask that you don't use our materials, since our CAF's mission really is to advocate for our family farmers across California. Our signage, we like those to be used for, reserved for those farms. So these ones here are created in PowerPoint. So you will need Microsoft PowerPoint in order to use the editable templates. And when you open up the PowerPoint program, then this will be in the background, and you can upload your own photos and you can edit the text box that are in the document. There's also an instruction sheet in the folder. So if you aren't too familiar with PowerPoint or using a template, then the instruction sheet will give you some information, tips, and ideas, and you can always email us. So we have the farmer posters. So even though these on my slides look to be the same size as the farmer profiles, these files are actually 18 by 24 inch posters. And they're designed to be used with the farmer profiles on the previous pages. And since our focus is on locally grown produce, we're excited to be able to offer a sign that can be left up in the cafeteria or classroom or your office year round, and you can change out the featured farmer regularly. Students, faculty, and the community learn to look for these posters and see if the farmer highlighted has changed. And CAF has actually been using this type of poster for different programs, specifically Harvest of the Month, for the past 10 years. And when we created the new signage suite, we knew we needed a poster just like this that matched the whole design suite. So, and we have these in Spanish. So a lot of our schools will print both the English and the Spanish and then have them up in their cafeterias. Excuse me. So we also have another version of posters. We call these the one-liner posters, and they come in English and Spanish. These ones are designed to be printed and left up in your cafeteria or office year-round. And they'll have, all of them will have a nutrition or food system fact on them. And we tried, they're 5th grade reading level, so they should be accessible to a lot of the students, and they have nice bright colors and big pictures on them. And then we actually have 9 of them. And so the 4 that you see here are only half of what we have to offer. So yep, and you can print as many as you'd like, English and Spanish. Keep them up. We have a couple other materials that can help add some extra touches to your cafeteria display. The LCD screen, Why Buy Local, it comes in an image format and is designed to be shown on a screen display. Those are becoming more popular in a lot of schools these days. The table tents are quite versatile. The ones shown here are already completed, but the ones in the signage folders, they have one side blank, so you can either enter in your own photos and text through the template format, or you can actually just print them out and write on them the name of the produce item or the farm that you're highlighting. And they can be used in the lunch line, on the tables in your cafeteria, at the checkout counter, in an office, or even in patient rooms. And they're a great addition to a full marketing presence. They just add one extra little touch. And then we also have a few completed farmer trading cards available. And over the next year, we're going to be working on building out this resource more. So if you're interested in using the trading cards in your program, before we have them all built out, feel free to contact us and we can see what we can do about making some trading cards that you would like to use. So now that I've waved all those fancy signs in front of you, now I get to explain how you get to have access to them. So our website, the www.caff.org/cafeteria-signage is your ticket. You will visit the webpage, you'll read through the agreement form, fill out your information, and then push submit. An email will then be sent directly to me with your submission, and I will then reply back and send you a welcome email with a little bit of information and the Dropbox link that contains all of the signage options. There's a folder map in the signage folders that you can open and get a description of what's in each subfolder. And then once you find yourself in the subfolders, you will begin to see all of the different signage documents that you have available. They're pretty large documents, so that's why we did it in a Dropbox folder, so you can have it, you can access it through an online format as opposed to having them all downloaded on your computer. They take up a lot of space. So most of the documents are PDF, and they're ready to be sent to your printer already. And then if your printer has any issues with any of the documents, you can contact me or have them contact me, and I can work it out with them because I do have all of the original files on my computer. And the agreement form is our way of tracking who's using the signage. We report these numbers to our funders each year, as well as using the information for our own knowledge. We want to make sure that the materials are actually useful for you. So if there's a material that you're not using, there's a possibility that we will stop putting a lot of our energy into it. And it also goes to say that if you have a material that you'd really like to request that we make, then that's something that you can do as well by emailing the farm2cafeteria@caf.org email, and we will make sure to help you out as much as possible, because if you'd like the material, there's a possibility that other schools and hospitals would like it as well. So the agreement form also acts as a way to monitor how the signs are being used. We support California Family Farms, and our signage is meant to highlight their products. So we ask that if you're working with other farms or you're highlighting produce that comes from outside the state, that use alternative signage. I already mentioned that once before, but we feel it's pretty important, so I wanted to make sure that it gets that message gets across to you. And then again, if you have any questions about accessing the signage, or if you start this process and something happens and something doesn't work out, or they don't email you back right away, then you can find access to the Farm to Cafeteria team with the farm2cafeteria@caf.org email. We're here to help. So now I would like to give a couple examples of how other school districts are using different marketing strategies. So San Diego Unified School District is a really large district in Southern California. They have a very comprehensive farm to school program that I wanted to share with you and show how they incorporate a few different marketing pieces. So each year they hold a training for their staff, and they train them on what to expect with farm to school. The staff learns that newsletters will be sent out to school staff, administration, parents, and the community. They learn that each month they will receive a box of produce to be used in the cafeteria. They will receive a produce production pointer sheet. That's the photo in the upper right-hand corner. I only took a screenshot of half of it. And so there's a whole one page that has information on what the produce item is, where it comes from, how to prepare it, a recipe, and additional nutrition informations. And then they'll also receive farmer profiles that you see in the bottom, the orange, the nice persimmon, bright colored farmer profile. That's the version that they use. And these can be displayed on the lunch line or anywhere else that they have them in the cafeteria and the classroom. And then each month, all of these things happen throughout the school year. And then one thing that's not shown in this photograph is what's contained in their newsletter. So I went through a bunch of their newsletters to get an idea. They do a really good job of connecting what's going on in the cafeteria with what's going on in the classroom and in the garden. So one of their newsletters might mention a garden to cafe harvest contest. They always have a garden spotlight. They have a school meal spotlight that highlights a local product like Mary's chicken drumsticks. They'll have photos of students participating in their taste tests. And they have a day of nutrition ed. It's an encouragement for schools to pick one day a month to focus on nutrition ed. And there's much more depending on the month and what is going on in their district. So it's a pretty big district, and they have a lot going on. And what I like about their program is that it's pretty comprehensive. They touch all pieces of farm to school. And then Santa Clara Unified, so some of you on the call are probably from this district, but I wanted to definitely point out how they're using some of our materials. So the photo on the right is they use the editable farmer profile template to create a profile for their school, their district's farm. So right there you can see Farmer Dave, who works at the farm at Wilcox High School. The two other photos are of a flyer that they created to send out to schools when they have lunchtime tastings. So one page is our farmer profile, and again, they use the editable template to create that. And then on the back, then they put together a bunch of nutrition and other facts about the item that they are highlighting that month. So it's a pretty great resource for other school districts to incorporate as well. And that's what's wonderful about the editable materials, is that it gives you some freedom for how you'd like to promote your own farm to school program. And so coming to the end here, I have some takeaways that I just want to point out. I've given you an overview of some marketing strategies that you can use in your cafeteria. There's so many ways to do farm to cafeteria program, and they all have value, every single one of them. And when it comes to marketing, the most important thing to remember is intention. We're working to serve high quality food that kids and patients might not otherwise have access to. The food tastes so much better and the nutrients are so much higher. It's what we all want to be eating and have an opportunity to provide to others. So intention comes through in all of your efforts that you are doing in your school or hospital. A consistent program will have the most impact too. If you can't add in all of the bells and whistles, but you do have a monthly tasting in the cafeteria, or maybe you have signs displayed year round, your students and staff will notice it and begin to expect it. Generating excitement around farm to cafeteria is easier than you think. The first 2 points are the nuts and the bolts. The energy is generated by you. The more you talk about it, the more you engage staff, students, parents, and the community, and the more energy by you being the one to start off all those conversations, more energy will be created, and eventually it'll take a life of its own. And the best part, energy is free. So there you go, big old tip there. There's so many farm to cafeteria strategies, and we've only scratched the surface on this call. And if you have a strategy that you use and have a great success with and feel that we didn't mention it today, go ahead and email me. Send me your success stories with photographs, because we're a community here all trying to accomplish something similar. And if I can provide that information to the community, if we can use the Good Food Marketplace as our communications hub, then we can all benefit from each other's collective wisdom. So there's my few takeaways that I'd like to share, and we have time for some questions. So if you would like, if you're able to and have any questions, feel free to add them in either the question or the chat box. And we'll give ourselves here a minute or two for questions to come in. And I can remind you again of our website that you can access all the signage. It's caff.org/cafeteria-signage. And I'm going to place us here on this screen, and then I can access any questions or chats. And if we don't have any questions, that is definitely okay. But I do want to provide, I did give you a lot of, let's see. There we go. No, I guess it doesn't look like we have any questions here, which is just fine with me. We definitely ended quite a bit earlier, which is always kind of a special thing when you're in a meeting and it gets done earlier. You've just freed up an extra half an hour for your day. So I would like to thank everybody for joining the call today. And if you have any questions afterwards, feel free to email us, farmtocafeteria@caf.org. Actually, we'll get you into a few of our team members. So your questions should be answered as quick as possible. So I'll go ahead and end the webinar here, and I hope all of you have a fabulous day and a fabulous weekend. Thank you very much.